That's about it. Hello everybody, I'm just setting up, just be a couple of minutes. And I've seen so many people on already. Hi Pam. Hello Joanne. Hello Jackie. Oops. Hello everybody. It's nearly 3 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Do you like my little mouse I made this week? I bought some doll's clothes from eBay, and I thought, right, they would make ideal mice clothes, and they fit really well because you just make your mouse to fit your costume. So I've got a load more to make this week. So I've had a lot of fun making those this week. Hello Sarah, yeah, I hope your internet behaves. So if you want to make something like this, just get some second-hand doll's clothes, or have a route through your kids' or your grandkids' toy box and then deny you've stolen them. But they're really good fun to make. Right, so we'll put those away. Right, let's turn the camera around. Oops. Hello everybody, I've managed to get my computer working so that I can see comments at the same time, but I'm going to have to keep taking my glasses on and off like most people in my age, just to be able to see messages. It's lovely to see so many people have joined us, and people have been in touch all week. to say how much they're looking forward to this session. We're going to be making one of these little hares. I've got a couple made. They do look really good if you do more than one different sizes and put them both together. They look really good. You just need some brown or some grey wool, a bit of white, a bit of black if you've got it. If you've not got black wool, you can always use some black cotton just to put these features in. You'll just need one piece of wire if you've got wire. If you've not, I think I've got a fix around it, so we'll talk about that as we get cracking. If anybody's got any questions, I'll do my best to try and read them while we're working through this workshop. If I miss them, I'm really sorry. It's probably because I've been concentrating on what I'm doing. And if I motor on and leave people behind, don't forget, these videos are available straight after. They're saved on Frankie and Sidney's Facebook page, so you can go back over them. You can cut out the bits that you don't want to see, probably this bit, and the last sort of 15 minutes where I've been getting ready, and go to the bits that you need. It's an easier way of doing it rather than trying to keep up. I'm going to be changing my camera around so that you can see what I'm doing. And as I said, I'm going to try and keep up to speed on any messages that are coming in. Hello everybody, I can see, what can I see? Oh, Donna Sutherland, hello Donna, Jill Carr, Jill Stevens, Vanessa Showler. Oh, it's lovely for everybody to have joined. Right, so we're going to get started then. So I'll try and turn this round. That's snapping it. I think that's a reasonably good shot of what I'm doing. Tell me if it's not. Right, so this hare, it's made with some simple shapes, like you'll be used to me by now. I tend to use pretty simple shapes to make it accessible for everybody. So, and I'm going to be working in core wool as usual, but if you've not got core wool, you can use any wool, any waste wool for this middle bit. Or if you want to be extravagant, you can use all merino. Sometimes I do that. But we're going to be making this shape and this shape to make the main pieces to start off with. And although it appears that this little hare's got four legs, you see, it's got 2 back legs, 2 front legs. You actually achieve this with one piece of wire, because the only bits that are wired are these 2 front legs. These are not wired, these are just felt, and you join them on. Hello Margaret Rogers, all the way from France. I hope the weather's nice in France, it's lovely here. Hello Glenda, Glenda's just up the road from me. She's not far away. So we're getting people from far and wide, which is really good. Right, so if you start with either some core wool or any waste wool like I've mentioned, we're going to be making that body shape. So you start off with quite a big piece, because what you're going to be making is that bottom end, and you just tie a knot or roll it in a ball, and then just roll your loose ends in. So we're just making a ball shape to start off with. I'm using a 38 twisted triangle needle. I use these all the time. I like these needles, but depends what you've got. If anybody needs woolen needles, I know I saw some comments earlier on. Hi Sarah, it's nice in Suffolk, great. If anybody needs needles and wool or anything, I am still sending out. It is taking a little bit longer, but not much in the UK. USA, for some reason, well, we know what reason, some things are taking only 10 days. Some things have taken 5 weeks because different states are treating mail differently. So I've got people that are still waiting for stuff to arrive, and I'm very confident it will arrive. but it's don't like letting people down because they think that you've not sent it or it's got lost, but we're managing to resolve most things. But UK and most of Europe deliveries are getting there really fast, and I'm really grateful to the post office for getting parcels in the system. So we're still able to ship, and I've still got stock. I managed to get a load of stock before we went into social isolation, so I've got access to stuff. Hi Steph, nice to see you. Oh, Jill, is there any way to identify needles you already have? I know just by looking at, because I only buy 2 different kinds of needles, well 3. I buy a reverse needle, which I use very rarely, a twisted triangle, because you can see the twist in the blade of the needle, and I use a 38 crown, not a crown needle, a 38 star needle, which has not got the twisting. I wouldn't be able to tell you, in all honesty, if I looked at some other needles what they'd be, only that they were finer or coarser. But this is a really good general purpose needle, this twisted triangle. It tends to be pretty strong, although in the next 5 minutes you know that I'm going to break it because I've just said that. That's sod's law. But they do tend to be quite effective, and these are Gross-Beckett needles, they're manufactured in Germany, and they're a really, really good quality needle because they're manufactured for industrial felting machines. They don't make them for crafts because that's not what they're designed for. That's why you've got that little L-shaped bit on the end. That's how they slot into the big felting machines. And they are incredibly strong needles, these, but like most felting needles, you only need to bend them the wrong way or hit a bit of metal or a bit of wood or anything and you let it go ping. But some of these needles that I've used from Gross-Beckett, I've had them so long and done so many projects with them, I virtually wore them out. So I've ended up replacing them, putting another needle in the handle because they're not quite as effective as what they have when they're new. So managing to keep a needle going for so long, and then you put a new needle in and you break it in 2 minutes. That's sometimes what happens. Right, so what I'm doing, I've created a ball shape and I'm trying to encourage it to elongate like this. Because what we're doing, we're creating, this will be the bottom of the hare, and then this is the upper body. And these models I've made of these hares, they're stylised really to look tall and thin, but the choice is yours. Hello Anne, looking forward to another Sunday felting with, that's great, thank you. Hello Carol. These Sundays soon keep coming round. I can't believe we've done so many. I think this is 5 or 6. I'm really looking forward to getting ready. I usually spend a couple of hours on a Sunday morning gathering all my bits and pieces, and although there looks to be loads of stuff on this little table I'm working on, this is tidy to what it normally looks like, my table, because I've been busy doing all sorts this week. Been making my little mice with the clothes on, and my patterns arrived for 2D felting kits, so I've been busy making those up so I can do photography and do the designs for the box covers, which I've done now. So I've tried to be a little bit disciplined and do some proper work every day, if you call this proper work. It's an absolute dream. So the 2D kits will be ready, and then people probably won't to wear this, but next week is the start of me looking at what designs need to be put through for Christmas, even though it's only April. I start at this time of year looking at what kind of things I'm going to be working on. So I usually sit in the garden, in the sunshine, looking at images of penguins and snow and whatever else the theme's going to be. Right, so this is getting quite firm now, which is good. The neck end, which is the pointy bit, that does need to be quite firm because you're going to be joining a head on, and it doesn't need to be particularly pointy. You're better off with it being a bit blunt, because the thinner it is, it's a smaller area to felt into to join the head of your hair to. Right. So I'm going to pull this ever so slightly. I hope everybody's managed to keep busy all week. It's been a bit of a strange week. I suppose this gives a little bit of respite from watching the news. It's a bit strange when one of the highlights of the week is nipping to Morrison's, then feeling guilty because you picked a mascara up and put it in your trolley and then took it out again because you felt guilty about putting the mascara in your trolley and taking it to cash out with your chicken drumsticks or whatever you've bought. But that's life at the minute. And realising that you've still got 3/4 of tank full of petrol or diesel, and price of it's gone down, so you can't fill it up to the top, which you'd like to do, while it's cheaper. Right. So this is going to be the body of the hair. What you need to do to facilitate it to sit up really is to make this bottom bit, the fatter bit, slightly concave, and you do that with any models that you're wanting to sit up that are quite tall, because if you leave it flat or rounded, obviously it wobbles over if it's rounded, but even when they're flat they often wobble over. But I found that if you make them slightly concave, they do tend to sit better, although what I tend to do with a lot of these kind of models is attach them to a little wooden slice or something to stop them from wobbling over. But it does help if you just make it just that little bit concave. Right. You see? So that little indentation there enables it to stand up much easier. Right, I think that's virtually done now in terms of creating that middle bit. I'm going to cover that with finishing wool, and next we're going to make this shape. It's just an elongated egg shape to start off with, and then we can just put some detail on it, just to give it that hair shaped appearance. I'll just set that to one side, and it does sit up, that's great. And just get some coal. Right, so just tear off a small amount of either core wool or whatever wool you're working with, and create your knot to work from, and then just wrap these ends around to start yourself off. Keep turning your work round as you work on it, and you'll find that you get a more even shape, because you can get softer bits and then firmer bits, and it becomes uneven. I made a decision this week because I'd got workshops that had been cancelled since March, and people just wanted me to hang on to the names and the fees and stuff. But I've got workshops right up into September. I made the decision to cancel them all because, like most people who had made arrangements to do things later on in the year, I've got things booked in September and October to attend big crafting events and one thing and another, and getting cancellations all the time. So I made the decision to cancel everything and send everybody's fees back and then start afresh a little bit later in the year, because it's going to be difficult to be able to catch up. So some people were disappointed, obviously, but people are really understanding, which is good. Right, so this is going to be like an egg shape, slightly elongated. So here we go. You can roll the shape around on your mat or whatever you're working on. I was getting my stuff ready this morning and I just managed to pull this mat to the end of the table and realised I was being rained on with dry rice. I'd actually wore my mat out completely and created a hole in it, and so I've just put a bit of just cheap dry felt on it, and it felts back to the surface and then gives you another surface, so I'll get a bit longer out of it. I've stuffed the rice back in. If anybody's got any questions about what we're doing, if anybody's got any suggestions about what they want to see us do if we do another one, we are going to be doing this next week. This is a little puffin. I've had a lot of requests for this. It is a kit I've got, but we are just going to do it as a live felting session. But what I will be doing is putting a list out of what you need. It's quite a big model, is this one, and I was quite concerned that I might not be able to get it done in a couple of hours, but I think we might be able to get it done in a couple of hours. It might be a little bit longer. What I might do is, I'm not expecting people to work alongside doing it, but have some of the pieces ready, show you how to make the pieces, and then put it all together, and then you can always look back on it and be able to do it, because it's got quite a few different elements. It's got a little fish in its mouth, it's got stenciled feet, lots of different colours and markings on it. It's not a complicated shape, although, but for you to be satisfied with the result, it does take quite a bit of time. But we'll look at doing that next week. But if anybody else has got anything that they want me to look at, I was going to look at a simplified version of this, but I'm not going to do it. I like this one. This is one of my latest kits, but we will do it, and I'll show you how to create it, and I'll give you the colours that you'll need as well, so you can drag it out of your scrap box if you've got one. Yeah, you're right, Jackie. You pick something up, you pick a finished piece up, yeah, like this, and you'll think, oh yeah, I can do that bit there. Yeah, sometimes you just can't stop. but everybody else is the same. Hi, Carrie. That's my friend Carrie. She's in Hong Kong. It's Carrie. She's a fabulous needle felter. Right, so we've got an elongated egg shape, and this is going to be the head. I'm just going to move that camera up ever so slightly, because that's it. So this is going to be the head, and you'll notice the front of the hair, the face it's quite. I'll get a profile. You see, it's quite blunt. So it's not like a mouse. Hi, Julie. Oh, you've made the puffin from my kit. Yes, you sent me a photograph, I remember. That's great. So, unlike a mouse, where you've got quite a sharp, pointed face, the hair that I make, it tends to be quite a blunt nose. So, if you've got a pointy bit, just go over that end shape and just blunten it off ever so slightly. But when you put the next layer of wool on and you put your markings for the nose, you'll find that it does blunten off. And what we're going to do before we join this head onto the body is we're going to put 2 beads in for eyes. Now, I don't know whether you've got beads. I'm using 6mm black beads. It might be that you've not got any. You can use a little bit of dark wool if you want. You can use those little plastic eyes, or sometimes what I've done, just for something to look a little bit more quirky, and I did it with one of those donkeys that I made. I actually found 2 little black buttons, and I sewed the buttons in for eyes, and they looked really effective. So you can do that. So these are 6mm black glass beads. I use these for a lot of different models, and I'm going to sew them in place because it's easier to sew them in place at this stage rather than waiting while you've got your model on. Hi, Sarah. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I've not been felting a long time, Sarah, only for about 3.5 years, but I do a lot because I now do it for a living, and I don't get fed up with it, ever. Right, so I've threaded the needle with some, this is button thread. You can use ordinary thread. You might need to double it if you use ordinary thread, but the reason I use this is that it's super strong, so it means that you can pull quite tightly on your beads or your buttons and it doesn't snap. So I've just made 2 little indents either side of this shape with my felting needle, just to give me a guide as to where I think I'm going to put these eyes. They tend to be pretty low down and quite far apart for the hair. But you can play around with it and decide where you put it. So I put the needle straight through the head like this, you see? Hopefully this piece of cotton won't go straight through. No, it's not, that's good. If it does, obviously go back through a couple of times, and then it'll lock it into place. And then you just thread on one of your beads. I think my needle's too thick. Oh no, it's not. And then go back through to where you first started, making sure that that thread's not twisted. Right, and then you can, if you just put your finger onto that bead to keep it in, and then go back through again, and you'll find that it'll stay in position. And then go back through, and then you can just put your next bead on the other side. And you'll find by doing that, the shape of your hare's face will have changed because it's pulled it in ever so slightly. Now, sometimes when I'm making models of usually dogs and cats and things, because sometimes I'll do those with people, if the shape of the face is just not quite right, and I think, well, that should be in a little bit there or whatever, use this technique, obviously without beads on. Just thread a needle, pull some cotton through and pull it in, and you'll find that the shape of your model changes. And if it's not right, you can always just snip it and it'll come back out again. Right, so there we've got those two eyes. I'm just gonna fasten this thread off, then it don't work loose. Right, now we're going to join this head to the body, and what you need to do initially is just hold it in place and then lay it down on your mat. And if you go from the head into that body at one side, turn it over, do the other side, watch your fingers like this, you'll find that it will grab it until you can get to the point of putting some wool over it. Looks a bit like a strange snowman at the minute, but it'll take shape. Have faith. Right, there we go. So we've just joined it on. So what we can do now is I'm going to add some of the top colour wool going around that neck area, and then I'm going to put some finishing wool going over. I've chosen some merino today to do this. This is like a minky colour. It's lovely wool, but I've done this one's done in a Corriedale mix. It's a little bit rougher, and oh, floss is great. Oh yeah, that's a really cracking idea. Thanks for that, Jill. So, tearing a thin layer of wool. Always work with thin layers. Don't work with great big chunky bits of wool, because you'll end up with great big ridges in your models. It'll take you forever to felt it in, and then you'll get bored with it. So start off really, really thin layer going between that head and the body. And you can go straight up over that eye, because you'll find that as you felt near that eye, your needle actually takes the wool in underneath that eye. So don't be concerned about going straight over the eye. So it's quite rough at this stage. I'm going to put some at that other side. So tear a thin layer off. Oh, you're on about my needle felting holder, Julie. Yeah. This is the best needle felting tool I've ever come across. I import these now from Australia, and the reason that they're so good is it's a single piece of aluminium, and I don't know whether you can you see the needle is absolutely central to that tool, so the needle comes straight out of the middle of the tool. I also do one that from the same, I import from the same company, and this has got 6 needles on it. This is a real monster of a tool if you're doing something quite big and you're wanting a really smooth surface. So that comes with 6 needles. This comes with 1 needle, but as a tool, it's lovely and balanced, and you've not got that issue of where your needle's coming out not in the centre of the tool like one of my wooden ones here. This is my reverse needle. That one, like most of them, they're coming out at the side of the tool. This one, straight through the middle. and it's got a little rubber gasket in it, so there's a little bit of give on the needle, and so if you hit something hard, there's a little bit of give on it. I'm not saying it protects it completely, because it doesn't. You sometimes break them, but it's a fabulous little tool. If you're wanting to look for one, if you go on my website at frankieandsidney.co.uk, you'll see them on there. I've been waiting almost 7 weeks for them to come through customs. They were stuck in Melbourne. They were ordered during the time when there were those horrific fires, because the people that make them live right down in Melbourne, and of course now they're affected like us with the lockdown. They were a little bit ahead of us in terms of effects, because they kept getting in touch with me and saying this is what's happening now. But anyway, good news is they arrived sort of beginning of last week, so I've got them back in stock now, which is good. You'd never need to buy another needle felting handle with one of those. Right, so just joining that head on, I'm working my way around with a thin layer like this, just tearing off a little bit of wool at a time. Like I said, it looks a little bit rough at this point, but you've got to keep going. I've been making a chihuahua for somebody over this last couple of days, and I kept looking at it and thinking there's something not quite right with this. Yes, Elizabeth, I've got these. I've got a few in stock now, so if you want to have a look at my website, they're on there. And these actually come with the needle, so the one that takes 6 needles, there are 6 needles included in that pack, and obviously this one's got one in, and there are 38 twisted triangle needle in both tools. So I'll just add some colour to this body. Oh, we're talking about this chihuahua. It just looked like a baby deer for some reason, and it was just ever so subtle was where I'd put the ears on the model. So I took the ears off and repositioned them, and then it looked like the chihuahua. So when you're working on models, just keep going. Just change things ever so slightly, and you'll find that you do eventually get there. I did end up snipping part of its nose off with a pair of scissors and then rebuilding it because I weren't happy. But eventually it worked out. Right, so that head's quite firm now. I'm not going to put any more top coat colour on this body section because there's other work to do on it. We're going to be adding the main 2 legs. But what I am going to do is I'm going to cover this head now with this wool, because we've got eyes in place, and then that section will be ready for ears a little bit later in that process. Oh, somebody else has made a model of a dog this week. That's great. I do love making models of dogs. I don't tend to do them as commissions so much now because you take so much time over them because they've got to be right. And I just end up running out of time because I ended up at one point with months worth of back orders on them, and you know, people were wanting them. So I like to encourage people to pick a needle up and have a go. I made this chihuahua for a special favour for somebody, so I relented. Like I said, go straight over the eyes, put your wool straight over, and you'll find that it just tucks tucks around that eye section as your needle felt. And if you use glass beads, these are glass ones, you'll find that your felting needle won't snag on it as easily as it would a plastic one. Just putting some over that nose area. Try now to work with these layers in the direction that it would, the fur would actually grow on an animal. This merino is super soft. It's a lovely wool. Don't forget, if you want to catch up with this video once I've finished, as soon as it's finished, you get an option to publish it and for it to be saved. So I usually publish it straight away so that people have got it. And I noticed that last week's video, where we made, what did we make last week? Fox, that's it. Over the week, that's had over 2,000 viewings, so people are going back and having a look, and that's great. I'm really glad I decided to save them. So it is gradually taking shape. Just thin layers at a time though, don't forget, don't use great big thick pieces of wool. You can see how fine it is that I'm using, it's really, really fine. A little bit of the back of this head, oops. I'm trying to work quite quickly on this because there are limbs to make for it, but you'll be able to take loads of time over it and enjoy really spending the amount of work that it needs to get that result that you're going to be pleased with. Then what I end up doing later is picking them back up and going back over them again just to finish them. I always say to people when they come to my workshops, you know, no, I don't let anybody leave one of my workshops without a completed model. And we always get there. But I always say to them, you know, because they take the felting needles with them that they're provided with at the workshop, and I always say, I can guarantee that you'll go and pick it up again when you get home and have a look. Can you see that eye there's disappeared? See, look, it looks like it's got one eye because that wool's gone over it. If you just use your felting needle straight over that eye, it appears again, look. Little face is appearing now, look. Right, I'm going to leave that there for now in terms of the face. Well, putting the colour over the face. It's got a reasonable amount of colour over it, but we're going to put some markings on it, so I'm not going to go and make sure it's absolutely finished, because we can go back and add little bits. Right, so we're at this stage now where we've got the head attached to the body. It's quite firm that now, that's not going to go anywhere. It's got eyes in. We've made the bottom slightly concave. That's to help it to sit up. Right, what we need to do now is to look at some wire. Now, as you can see, it's got two back legs and it's got two very, very long front legs. These are the ones that the wire's for. And you only need one piece of wire and it makes both legs. So you're not working with 4 bits of wire, it's just one piece of wire. This doesn't support it, so if you've got a pipe cleaner, they tend to be a little bit floppier. You can get away with a pipe cleaner, although I always say I don't like pipe cleaners. You're better off just with a bit of garden wire, to be fair. But what you need is a piece of wire that is double the length from under the chin to the bottom. Now I purposely didn't cut one because I normally cut it because I don't know what size everybody's going to be working on, because you can scale this up and down just to suit you, but if you know that that piece of wire needs to be double the length from under the chin. So I've got a bit of wire, I've got string attached to it and stuff to stop it from bouncing all over. Right, so what I do, measure it down like this. So you've got your piece of wire, put it under the chin, right to the bottom of your model, and then just double it over like this. That's quite a long piece of wire for something this size, and obviously if you make a really tall one, it'll be a really long piece of wire. But that's the length that you need. I'll just chop it off. Like that. So then you just bend it back out again. And if you've seen me covering wire before, you'll know that what I do is I make a little hook on one end like this. You see that? Sorry for the motorbikes. One hook there, and then you make a hook on the other end. Now, these cute models are super cute, but don't forget, they're not toys. Don't give them to children and babies. You can make mobiles, get them out of reach. You can do models that can sit on a high shelf and things like that. But even when you've got models that have not got wire in, don't forget they've got beads in for eyes, they've got loose wool. So don't give them to children as toys, and especially when you've got wiring like this. Right, so tear a small section of wool off. It's got to be the wool that you're doing your entire body with, just a small section, and tie an open knot at the end of your wool. Slide it over your wire and then slide your knot up into that hook. So it just, that hook's grabbed that knot, and then that open hook, what you do, you just close it up with a pair of long nose pliers, or you can use some strong tweezers or something, or put it on a table and squash it if you've not got those. So that then traps your wool. And what we're going to be doing is making it like a cotton bud at the end of this, and then we're going to make a cotton bud at the other end. Hello, Jacket. Jacket, this is just garden wire, or you can use floristry wire, anything that you've got. It needs to be quite fine for a model this size. If you've got something that's a bit heavier, you can't sort of bend it as easy. I did mention pipe cleaners at a push. Pipe cleaners do tend to break your needles more easily because there are 2 pieces of wire, and you tend to hit the wire more often when you use pipe cleaners for some reason. Right, so just garden wire. This is just a modelling wire, it's 1mm. At this time of year, a lot of the gardening places, but although a lot of them are not open, but places like Aldi do sell this wire at this time of year. It's quite useful. You can buy it online as well. So have a look at online if you've not got any. Right, so tied that knot, and then this loose end that you've got, we're going to form a cotton bud. So wrap it around the end of your wire like this. Do it flat, don't twist it. Don't hang on to it and twist it, because you'll find that it twists the wool and then you end up like a plaited effect. So I'm keeping it flat as I'm winding it round, and all we're wanting is just a cotton bud like that. When you get to the end of your wool, if you're very careful, just use your felting needle and it'll just keep it in place. And all you're doing is creating an area where you can start off with wool to get from one end to the other. So I'm going to create another cotton bud on this end. Obviously, when you get more familiar at doing these, you should be able to start at one end and work it across. But even now, when I get a long piece like this, I tend to make a little cotton bud, and then it makes life easier. So create an open knot like this, slip it over the hook, tug it tight and slide it into your hook, clamp that hook closed, and then wind your wool round like this. I've not got them the same size, it doesn't matter at this point. They're going to be slightly bigger than this when we finish anyway, so at this point it's okay. So there you've got. Try and avoid that wire underneath with your needle, because you'll snap it. Snap your needle, not your wire. Right. So these 2 ends, these are eventually going to be the end of your hare's feet, like that. So we're going to have to concentrate on make sure that these are both the same size and the same thickness for it to look balanced. But at this point, what we're going to do is cover this wire with a piece of wool. We're going to try and get from one end to the other with a single piece of wool. It's easier if you can do that. If you can't, I'm going to show you how to get part way across, but then hold it in place so that you can continue. So take a really long section of wool. Now, some of the wools, some of the rougher wools, such as this Corriedale, and there's a black face that I use, they've got, it's a very, very short, but it's really in short sections. I'm trying to think of the word for it. Merino tends to be in quite long sections, so it's easier when you're doing something like this rather than keep working with little tiny bits of wool. So try and tear off quite a long piece like this, and what you're going to do is just felt it to the end of this little knotted end, this cotton bud, so it holds it in place. And then what you're going to be doing is quite firmly, close to this wire, is wind this wool round. Now you've got to try and keep it flat as you take it round. Don't twist it. So it goes round and round like this. Nice and flat. Keeping hold of it. Can you see it's quite close to that wire? Now, ideally speaking, we want to be able to get right to this other end, but what you might find when you get, let's just say, you get to there and then you realise, I'm just going to take some wool off. Oh, I've only got that much wool left. Right, don't work carrying it on until you've got no wool left. What you need to do, if this happens, is wind it backwards, back down the wire, just for about 2 centimetres, like that. Felt through your wool and your wire, like this. Just going to pull that excess wool off, show you what I mean. And then just wind your loose wool around. And then you've only done that bit. So what you do then is start off about 1 centimetre in, again. Some of this that I've already pulled off. Hi, Kath. Right, so join your wool about 1 centimetre down. Just felt it into place, and then you're back up and winding back on. I should be able to get right to the end for this. Keep it flat, keep it nice and tight, because if not, you'll not get it to sit on that wire without it getting gaps and stuff. You'll make more work for yourself. So there we go, round and round. So you get right to that other cotton bud, and that's the reason why we put it there. So when you get there, you can just felt it to that cotton bud, and then it keeps it nice and tight on that wire. Right, so now you've got a layer of wool so that you can thicken that up now. As you thicken your layers up, just keep felting along your wire, being careful not to hit that wire if you can. And just keep adding extra wool, bearing in mind that these are going to be your legs, these are the end of your feet. You don't need to concentrate too much on this middle bit, probably just halfway down your doubled wire. So just add some more wool to thicken it up, so you get the thickness of the leg that you want. And then the feet bit, they need to be slightly fatter, so you've got a little foot at the end of this wire to bend forward. Like this. And I just continue to thicken this up until you've got the thickness you need. Now I did do one earlier. This is the one that I made earlier. You can see I made it. It's a really long one. I'm making it for a big hare, but I made it bigger so I can show you just what we're going to do. And I'll end up bending this over to use it, but it'll be all right. Now you might be able to see. On this one. Can you see this one? It seems to be a lot smoother than this one. This one has just had the wool wound round it, like I've been showing you. This one, I've added extra wool going in opposite direction, and you get a better finish. It can be a bit fiddly to do it, but you can see the difference in that result. Can you see? This is the one that's just wound round. This is the one that's had the extra wool. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So when you've got your leg to the thickness that you need, tear a section of wool. You want the section of wool as long as the section of leg that you're going to be covering. It's got to come over that foot bit and then up this leg. And it's a really thin layer. Just tease it out ever so slightly. Like that. And then lay this leg onto it. And then just roll this wool round it. So what you're doing, you're creating like a web of wool, and it's going round that wire and over that wool. So your wool that's gone round and round is already underneath. This strand is going downwards vertically. And what that does, you're creating the smoother texture, and it'll become firmer and you'll get a better finish. So I've wrapped it around, it's really, really thin layer, and then just spend some time just going up and down, keep picking it up and turning it round. And you'll find that the surface of this leg then will become a lot finer. You'll get a better result. So you can use this technique for when you're covering anything, any wire, because obviously you're going round and round it, but then, excuse me, you can almost see those layers that you've gone round. So you'll get a neater result. Try and be careful not to hit that wire inside, because don't forget you'll hit your needle on it. Got a tickle. Right, so keep picking it up, turning it round, and you'll notice that as you're doing this, please excuse me, I just need to get my drink. Can't reach it. So. It's better. When you're felting through this section of wire, you'll see the little bits of wool come flying through that other side. And that's the fibres that you're taking from one side to the other. That's how felting works. What you can do is roll it. I need a cup of tea, you're right, Nicola, I do. I've got some orange. There's nothing else in it but orange, don't worry. Right, can you see, if you roll it in your hands, then those little ends disappear. The other trick to this is that when you get into a point where you're almost there, you'll know when you're almost there, you'll be satisfied with that, with the finished result, is rather than felting directly down into your piece. Yeah, Sarah, where is it? I don't even know if he's watching, he's in the other room. Once you get to the stage where you're quite happy with that covering, what you can do, rather than felting directly down into your mat, bringing those bits through, is ever so slightly felt in a sideways motion. You've obviously got to be careful of your fingers when you're doing this, because you're working at a different angle. But you'll find that then it takes the fibres inside the shape that you're making and not taking them through that other side. So if you're felting something that's quite shallow, like this, well then you eventually get rid of all those ends. And then obviously the other way that you do it is you can always snip off any loose bits. Right, so this is a set of front legs. These are too big for this model, so ideally I'd make a set of short legs for it, because I just did these earlier, so I could show you that technique in terms of covering those legs. But what I'm going to do, I am going to use these legs. So you turn them out ever so slightly at the bottom. You see they're a lot taller than me, the hair. Just turn those little fatter bits out at the bottom. And I'm just going to bend these over because they're too big. But what you normally do with yours, you just bend your wire over. I've just shortened them. Right, so what I'm going to do now is add some wool around up to about there. So this is going to be the chest on there. Now the reason why you take your wire right up to the neck is because then it's got wire attached to the body and you can bend your hair over and it'll stay in that position. So it's worthwhile taking the wire right up. So what I'm going to do now is add some wire, some wool over this section, and then just leave about 2 inches of these legs loose at the front of your hair. Right, so to do this, you want a small section of wool, put it over your wire on your hair like this, and felt either side of that wire to start off with, like this. That's just going to hold it in place, and then wind it round. So I'm going to add more wool round for this hair. Like this. And you'll find, because you've got that wire underneath, it creates a little puffed up chest area for the front of your hair. So it's adding a little bit more of a shape to your model. So it's losing that carrot shape. And you're getting more of a little chest area. So I've been working for about an hour now, so don't think we've done too badly. Don't forget you can just rewind it at the end. Just adding more wool. Just want it to be quite secure, so I'm putting quite a bit going round, and then I'm going to be adding some wool going in the opposite direction just to tighten it all up. I'm working all the way around. So can you see now where you've added that wire? It's coming up its legs into its chest, and once it's finished, then you can use that wire in to form that slightly bent over shape. So that wire becomes quite important, really. Right. So your hair should, in theory, be able to sit now, because you've got that concave bottom area and you've got these 2 legs which sit quite close to that body for it to look right. So what we're going to do is now cover the rest of this body in the same colour wool. I'm going to be lifting those legs out of the way to put wool around this section, and then they'll bend back down over it. So it looks slightly odd at the minute. Ah, look what's turned up. Thank you. Let's see, you thought he'd forgot me, didn't you? Well, I did as well, actually, but he didn't. Hello, Teresa. I've been on your friends list for quite a long time. Thank you for joining us. So put your layer of wool to cover your hare's body going around to start off with, because your top cover, which is your final cover, needs to come down your body. Yeah, Donna, you must have heard us. Yeah. There we go, round and round. Keep working your work round and round and round. Just keep moving it all the time. Right, I'm going to put some wool going down that body now. Yeah, it'd be nice to have an actual workshop where people can have a drink while they're working. That's what usually happens in my workshops. We usually have loads of tea and treats and cake. We don't tend to stop for lunch because nobody wants to stop for lunch. They want to keep working. And I'm missing doing them because I really enjoy doing workshops. But needs must. Oh, June is asking where I got that little gadget from to clean my pad. It was from Amazon, June. This is just a small version that comes with it. You order, it's a self-cleaning clothes brush. The big version looks like this, but it's about this size, and you can use it on your clothes, but they include one of these as well. It's a tiny one, and I thought that's ideal just for cleaning the pad, because what you do, you can clean your fibres off and then you push it in and pull it out, and then I can show you, you get all your fuzz in there. So they're really good. I think they're about, for both, for the big clothes version and this little mini version, I think they're only about a £5. So if you look on Amazon for self-cleaning clothes brush, you should find them. You can choose your colour as well. They're really good. My daughter bought one for home and I'd been coveting it, and then she said, well, why don't you order one? And then I forgot that when they come with a little mini one as well, which is really good. I mean, they might take a while in coming now because I think they might come from other side of the world. You could use a fuzzer's cord if you got enough. Yeah, you could. They're great for pet hair as well and furniture. I ought to be getting commission for that company. Right, so we're continuing to cover this hair with this covering wool. It's coming together ever so bit by bit. This is not a bad little model to say that you get quite a sort of, it looks quite an intricate model, but it's just a couple of shapes and one piece of wire. So it's I often do this one at workshops. It's quite popular because people quite like hairs, and then I often get sent photos where people have made a hare and then they'll make like a little woodland scene and stuff like that. And you know, and if you're not wanting to do complicated sets of legs, it's a nice one to start with. Right, so obviously we've got to spend time to get this, you know, really smooth. But it's important that this layer goes from head to toe, not round and round. It's the layer under that goes round and round, because it'll look a little bit odd if you use your top layer as the one that goes round the body. You'll find that you get a much better effect if you use just a very fine layer. Just going up. That monster tool that I was showing people earlier, that big tool with 6 on, this is the sort of time when you'd use one of those, because obviously you work 6 times faster. But you can't use these tools when you're first starting a model off, because the softer the work is, the more difficult it is for this to be effective on your model. But I don't know about you folks, I still like working with a single needle. Oh, you've got the link for the clothes brush. Well done. You found it. That's great. Are they about a £5? Thought they'd be about a £5 or something like that. There won't be much more than that, I don't think. Just let us know how much it is. Oh yeah, it's just coming up on my feed. Let's have a look. Ah, yeah. There it is. How much does it say it is? I can't see. Good. Something else we'll all rush to buy now. Just mention you saw it at Frankie and Sidney. Another useful bit of kit that we can use for felting that nobody expected to be able to use. Right. I think this is doing relatively well. Oh, well, they're nearly a tenner, Donna. You're not getting the feed, Julie? Oh, what, the live video feed? Did you get it previously? Have you been on and seen it, or can you just hear it? I think everybody else is still getting the video feed. Am I right? Because somebody just let me know if they can see it. Then it's not a problem at my end that I need to fix. Because I've got yeah, I'm gonna say I've got my computer up so I can see the feed, but there's about a 3 or 4 second delay on it before it comes through to you. Oh, so you logged out and went back in. Right. I think everybody's using internet on a Sunday afternoon, aren't they? Right. So quite obviously, to get a really nice finish, you've got to spend time to go over these models to get that lovely finish. If I'm honest, that's the bit I like best as well, refining it so that it gets neater and neater. Right, so now, although I would be spending more time to smooth this, to get a better finish, what I am going to do is show you what you do with the legs, because I've worked underneath those legs and covered this. Obviously you've got that covered there, but they need to be quite close to that body. They don't look right if you leave them stuck out at an angle. So what you need to do is press them down onto the body like this, hold them together, and then use your felting needle up and down those legs, at the side of the legs, through this sort of leg wool, in the middle where you've got them together, and the other side, and you'll find that they'll stick to that body. I think what I did with one of them, when I made one a few weeks ago, I might have put a stitch in it, because I think I got one that kept bouncing up. So if you find that you've got one that bounces up, or they both do, you can always pop a stitch in it through them so you can't see it. So can you see now that profile you've got, the little chest on your hare, and then the legs? We're getting lots of techie suggestions, which are always useful, because I'm rubbish at it. Expert, hardly an expert, Carol. Just an just enthusiastic. Oh, great that you're back on. Oh, you missed a bit about the brush. Right, this is the brush that they were on about. It's a self-cleaning clothes brush. This is the mini version. When you buy them, you get a great big version that you use on your clothes, but then it comes a little mini version. And as you brush your felting pad, the fibres stick to that. You stick it in and pull it out, and all the fibres collect in a little container. Now, I thought they were about a £5, but I've been told they're a tenner. Oh, somebody's put a link up again, but they are really useful. They're a really useful bit of kit anyway. But if everybody's like me as well, every bit of clothing I've got often comes out of the washing machine with some sheep's wool that has been machine felted to it. Right, so these legs are now, they're quite fixed in place. I'm just going to make 2 little sections of thigh that's going to go either side of this little hare for its haunches. And you just do that by take a piece of wool, split it into 2 so that you've got 2 equal sections of wool. Put one aside, and the way I do this is lay your piece of wool onto your model, start felting in what would be the shape of that haunch. It's like a bit of an oval shape, and just keep bringing your wool into that shape, just felt lightly over the surface to start off with until it starts to form that shape like this. And then it just gives the appearance then that this is the hare's haunch, or the fatter bit of the leg. Just gives it a little bit of shape. And then put one on the other side. So same again, just prod it into position and then work in the shape of what the horn should be, round in that little, like a circular oval shape. Just bring your ends up. The life of a felter, yeah, finding wool everywhere. I often find it stuck to my dogs, thinking there's something wrong with them, and then got one the other week where we thought she'd cut her foot. So I tried to grab her to see what she'd done. It was a piece of red wool. Right, so you see though, so I've just sort of given it the impression of those haunches, and you can make those quite bigger if you wanted. It's really down to personal preference. I'm going to leave them for now, but you can make those bigger, and you can make them more defined by just going around the edges of them with your felting needle just to highlight where they are. Right, I'm going to make the back feet now. So all you need to do to make the back feet, it really is just two little sections that we flat felt. It's a bit like making the ear of a mouse or something. It's like a small ear shape, even though it's a foot. So you want one piece of wool, split it into two, then you've got your equal sections, put one aside, and then bend it over into a loop like this. Get the other one, bend that over into a loop, and you're working with doing two at once. Don't felt this section at the ends, because this is what you're going to join them on with. So from about there down, start just to felt into the surface of your mat, whether it's sponge or whether it's a Hessian rice mat or whatever it is you're working on. Just ever so lightly to hold it in place in the shape of that foot. Just gradually encourage the fibres to fill that little space. You see this little space? You're pulling the fibres in and creating that shape. I use this technique to make ears all the time, but you can adapt it for making all sorts of things. Sometimes I do templates for these kind of things, but it's quite an easy technique, is this, for doing little shapes. Right, so now I've done that, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of padding onto it, because then you've got the impression that it's a little fat foot. So another piece of wool, split it into two like that, curl it up and just add it onto that foot like that, and then do the other one. Just curl it round. Any loose ends, just twirl your needle over it, it'll grab them. I've been writing some instructions this week for a 2D felting kit, and I had to describe the swirling bit with your needle, because I don't know if anybody else does it, but it's something that I find quite useful. So if you've got loose ends and you're trying to gather them up, you just twirl your needle round it near to where it is, and you'll find it picks all your loose fibres up. Right, so what I've done now, I've got another piece of really fine wool. I've got two, one for each foot. Lay it over your foot. Just felt maybe a dozen times into that surface in that shape, and then lift it off your mat, and then curl your loose wool around the other side and just felt that into place. So it's just like making a little puffy ear type shape. Ah, yeah, June. Yeah, for eyes it is good. Sometimes you can't see those fibres. What June's saying is just gathering up the finest fibres to get them into something. Because you can't always see the fibres, but then when you gather them up with the end of your needle and then felt them in, you realise just how small amount of wool you need to make an impression, to make that colour. I've been doing a 2D felting picture. It's a kit that I've been making up of loopings, and the individual flowers on these loopings are all little dots, so you can imagine having to twirl all these loose fibres up to get them into that dot shape so you could see the individual little dots. Right, so can you see these are sort of coming together? Keep turning them over on your mat to keep that shape, and you end up with two like little, the bigger the feet, the back feet for these hares, I think they look a little bit more effective when they're that little bit bigger than the front ones. And what I've done on one of the models I've done, and you can do this later with a bit more time, is I don't know if you can see that, I just used some ordinary cotton and just sewed through to make the individual little toes. You can do that with cotton, or you can use a bit of black wool. You can felt black wool in. The looping kit jacket will be available. It'll be about two weeks. I designed the covers this week and the instruction packs. They've gone to printers, but that's what it looks like. The kits come with the hoop and the pre-printed, this fabric's pre-printed, so it's literally like painting by numbers. But all these little dots are those ones where you twirl them round into little balls, and then same with your bumblebees, and it comes with beads and things. But they look great when you finish them out of the hoop and then you put them in a frame. They look really good. So I've got five different 2D kits that I've got one out already, and then I've got a beach hut one, and so I've got a row of beach huts, and then I've got two countryside ones with sheep and hillsides and stuff. They were just waiting for printers to be able to send covers, so they're all ready. That's the work I've been doing this week. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. So here we've got two little puffy feet. And you just position those just under the haunches bit. And you can felt directly into the base. Try not to felt into that hollowed out bit, because that's the bit that helps it to sit up. So just take your wool just around it. There you go. So we've got that one on now. Oh, somebody's just coming in. This is what the beach hut looks like when it's framed. It's in a kit the same. That's coming out soon. And this is the Peony and Bee one. This one's already available, but the other four, I'm waiting for printing coming back. I think they make great presents actually, because not everybody likes models, and it's a good way of getting into needle felting. It's really accessible. It's really easy. So all the kits come with an embroidery hoop and images of what the final one looks like, and obviously all the colours. What I also provide, because as I'm doing the design, I'm working out which bits to do which bits to do when. So do you do the sand first and then the beach huts and then the sky? So I've worked out the best way of doing it, so I give people a suggested list of the order in which to do it. Right, so I'm going to put this other foot on. So that's the feet done. Like I said, try not to go into that concave hollowed bit at the bottom, just take it around. Hi Ray. Everybody's making stuff, aren't they? I sent a box of felted hearts off to a hospital down south last week. You know, the ones where they wanted pairs of hearts. So I sent maybe 15 sets actually. But people are really imaginative. I've got a friend that's making masks for care homes and people that need them, and they look absolutely fabulous. Right, so this little fella's sitting up now. Next thing to do, I'm going to put some white on the chest. You don't have to do like everything else, it's just preference. I just think it sort of brings it out slightly. So all I do is just lay a little bit of white on. Doesn't need to be too thick. And then just loosely felt that. I only loosely felt when I put it on these chests, but I know when I do workshops, some people like a very definite patch. It all comes down to what you want to do, doesn't it? Right, so that's that. Just put a little bit more on. So just tear a tiny bit on. Just lay it on that chest area. And just encourage it to go around that chest region and down towards those legs. That's looking quite nice now. Right, next thing, I'm going to put the nose detail in. So it's a nose and mouth. Drink my tea before it gets cold and I get told off. I'll leave in another cup of tea. Right, so I'm using a little bit of black wool. If you've not got any black wool, you can do this with a needle and thread. It's quite simple. You're just creating, let me show you on this one, a little V shape, and then a stick that would be the Y, and then a little bit at the bottom for the mouth. So if you're going to do it with felting wool, just the tiniest bit. Get how much you think you need and then half it, because it's always too much. So tiny little bit like this. You see? Try not to sneeze because it'll blow it away. Right, place it over the centre of your hare's face, where you'd imagine the bottom of the nose to be. So it's a little bit further down on its face. And just fell into that central area, and you'll find that it starts to scrunch up. You think, oh no, what's happening to it? It does scrunch up. But bear with it, just put your needle in 2 or 3 times, no more than that. And then, using your felting needle, imagine where the top of that V would be and press there. And you'll find that it tightens those fibres up. You see? Do it with the other side. You see? And then very lightly just go up and down that V section. Now you'll notice that you've got these little bits at either side. Like I mentioned earlier, we were talking about swirling your needle around. Just swirl your needle around where that is, and it gathers them up, and then just push them in to the end of that V, like this. And then you can just go up and down that little nose area. Yeah? I've got a dog wanting to come in and see what I'm doing. This is the one that had a bit of red wool stuck to her foot. In she comes. Now she wants to go out. Next you need to create that little, it'll be the tail on a Y really. So it's, again, a tiny piece of wool. Take it downwards. In that same way, just anchor it in at both ends of where it's going to be, and then get rid of those loose ends by using your needle to gather those ends up. If like me there, I don't think I've got that in right place. It's a little bit further over to one side than it should be. You can actually encourage it to move just by scraping your needle ever so carefully over it. Don't scrape too deeply because you'll snap your needle. But you can encourage things to move around if they're not in the right place. And then we're just going to put that mouth in. June's saying her dog follows her around. Mine do. They're really good though, because a lot of people's dogs really attack the felting, but mine never have. They're really good. They just couldn't be bothered. I often get models sent back to me asking if I can put them back together because the dogs attacked it. Right, I'm just going to put this mouth in. You do it in the same way as that little V shape. I'm not doing it quite as long, then you can see that it's a mouth. Just secure it at each end like this. This one's got a little smiley face. What you can do as well, so that's got a little smiley face. Hi Jenny. You can do a little dot. So you can see it's got a smiley face there. I'm just going to take that off. Like that. And I'm going to make it a little dot for a mouth, because this works just as effectively. So if you're going to put a dot in for its mouth, just felt into that mouth area, collect your ends up, and then you can see you've got a cute little mouth. Right, get rid of that black wool now, and we're going to be doing a set of ears. Now, the ears I've done, they're flopping down ears. If you're working on a small model, You can either put them up or down. The stiffness of the wool will allow you to do both. If you're doing a really, really big hare, what I recommend you doing is putting some wire in the ears. I've made bigger models where I've put wire in, but for this size model you don't need to put wire in. So to do a pair of ears, you want some of your finishing wool, tear it into a section like this, divide it into two, so then you've got a set of even ears. It's like with the making the little feet, and just double your wool over like this, double your second ear over so that you can make them identical as you're doing them. Right, so felt into your felting mat, encouraging that wool to come over to fill that little gap. One of the hairs that I made, I really over exaggerated its ears because I think they look really cute with big ears. Right, so just felt into your mat, leave this bit loose. Like this. So you've got a set of ears that are the same length and width and thickness. A little bit of wool to go over the opposite direction of your ear. So tiny little bit of wool, lay it down on that ear. Felt it into the surface of that shape of that ear, so you've got fibres going in another direction. And lift it off, fold your fibres over and turn your ear over, and then work on the other side of your ear. I'm just going to put some wool going in the opposite direction on this second ear, and then I can work on them both together. You're better off working on ears in pairs, and then you've got them the same. So a bit of wool just to get those fibres going in the opposite direction. Lift it off your mat and fold your fibres round. Like so. Keep turning it over. Right, what you can do as well at this point, if you're wanting the ear slightly pointed, keep your ear on your mat, stick your needle in so it's quite deep into your mat or your foam. Don't do this by just sticking it in the end because it'll break it. Stick it in and then just pull ever so slightly on what you're working on, and you'll find that it gives it a bit of a point. So it puts it back in shape. I'm going to put a little bit of white inside that ear section just for a little bit of contrast. Keep turning it over. Keep smoothing them down so you get a nice smooth finish. If anybody can hear strange noises, my dog's just walked and he's just had his tea and now he's going to come and sit and have a sleep. He's a really tired old dog. Well, they're both very old. The little black one that you can see there, nobody knows how old she is. We got her when she was about 9. The vet thought she was about 9 or 10. She was a stray. Nobody knows where she came from. And we've had her 8 years, so she's really, really old. But she's the hungriest dog on the planet. The other dog's 12, so they're both quite old. They're lovely. Right, so a little bit of white, just to put some contrast on. I've got about 15 minutes, because I aim to do it in a couple of hours, so that people don't get bored silly with me. Just put a little loop of white on. You can leave this quite loose as well, because it gives the impression that it's quite wispy. And providing you've felted your ears enough around all the edges and everywhere, you can always tidy them up with a pair of scissors. That's coming off. Hi Barbara. Are you talking about an overall smooth effect of the entire model, such as this? Because all it is continually going over and over it, and so it's almost, the way I describe it when I do workshops is it's almost like popping bubbles. So you'll set off with big bubbles to start off with, and then you work smaller and smaller and concentrate on the tiny little bubbles, and you'll find then you get a really, really smooth finish. And the closer you get to finishing your model, the shallower you need to use your needle. Just very, very slightly into the surface. It's all about repetition. And like I showed earlier, if you're wanting to use a tool with several needles in, a fine needle, lots of poking, or a multi-tool needle, but only really, you only really do, it's just the surface stuff to get that effect if you're wanting a smooth surface. And keep stroking it with your hands as well, because you'll find that it responds to the warmth of your hands. Right. I appear to have lost an ear. Right. Right, folks. I'm going to attach the ears. I can only find one. Don't know what I've done with the other one. Right, so the loose bit that you've got on the ear, that's the bit that you're going to attach your ear to your hare's body with it. I'm just still looking for this ear. So I wanted to put these ears really in a downward position. You could, if you want, put them in an upward position. Choice is yours. I might put it in an upwards position just for a different look. Right, so what you do, if you hold the ear in the position where you want it to be joined onto your hare's head, just pinch it into position, then lay your model down, and that portion that you've left not felted. Oh. Thank you, Elizabeth. Found me here. It's a good job you're taking notice. So, that's hysterical. So there we've got that here stood up. It's all descending into chaos because I've got a dog barking at the door wanting to come in. Somebody's going to let her in.
Forgot to put her out. Are you going out? Going out? No?
It just shows it's real life. Unedited. This is what you get. Dog barking at the door. I've lost an ear. Somebody 200 miles away has found it for me. Don't you just love it? Right. Ear number 1. Ear number 2. Just attach them. Just smoothing that wool down the back of its neck, so it just blends in with that coat, and it helps to strengthen keeping that head in place as well. It's the same when I go on a chandy, you know. None of that is scripted, or you don't get any chance to run it through and practice. They literally count you down from 6, and that's it. You're live for an hour, and whatever happens happens because they don't stop. It's not filmed, it goes out live. So if you dry up, you dry up. If you drop your stuff, well, you drop it. But it's good fun, actually. I quite like it. Right, this is looking quite quirky now. Look at this. So, up ears, down ears. Choice is yours. Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah, you can see I'll position them down. And the thing is, because needle felting is so forgiving, you'll probably know that if you got hold of this and tugged at it, you could pull it off and you can change it round. So you can either put them down like this or up like that. What I'm going to do now to finish it off, this will sit quite happily as it is because we've made that base concave, but you can fasten it onto something if you wanted. The other thing I'm going to do is just around the eyes, I'm going to add a little bit of white wool. I'm going to show you how I'll put those ears down, Jill. If you're going to put them down, like I said, you can just encourage this to come off. So if you're going to put one down, just hold your ear around the back of the head like this. You see? And then just felt that loose end into the back of that head. So you've got one ear, you can do one ear up. You could actually do one ear up, one ear down. I'll leave it like that, then people can see both options. You see? Right, so tiny little bit of white wool. Just going to split it into 2, and then what I'm going to do is just loop it around the eye area and really carefully just felt that eye round with this white, and then lead a little bit of white wool down its face, and it sort of it does edit towards its nose. If you've got a bit much like I have there, just pull a bit off. And can you see what happens? It gives you the impression that it's got more definition on its face, like that. And then I'm going to do the other one. There we go, round and down its face. Just adds that little bit more interest onto its face, I think. Just trying to get into a position where you can see it. I'm working on a reverse screen, so you could read that little sign I put up to start off with, but it's put me on a mirror image and it's really confusing me. Right. You see? The very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some whiskers in this model. Now, I've got some, I know people use horsehair, I tend to use, it's some polyester thread. It tends to work quite well, whatever you've got. What I tend to do is put it through double. Sometimes this is really difficult to show on camera because the thread is so fine. So I pull the ends so that they're both level with each other, like this. Yeah, some people use paintbrush bristles. Yeah, I've used those in the past as well. They're quite good. So you've got your thread, but if you can use this technique for either using cotton or if you're using nylon thread as well. So if you put your needle straight through that nose area, I don't know if you can see that, pull it until you get that whisker that appears at this side. Can you see it? Just. And then I'll leave it tight. I leave it slightly long, and then you can either sew back through to join it in, or what I tend to do is I put the tiniest blob of super glue on that end and just pull it then till the blob of super glue goes into that face, and in seconds it bonds it in, and then I just snip that other side, and then you've instantly got 4 whiskers. Now I'm going to go through and do another set, and then that'll give me 8 whiskers. It's a really effective way of doing it, and then you can trim them back as you need. There we go. So tiniest little blob of super glue, can hardly see it. Pull them in. That's it. That's it. And then just snip to size. Put the top on this glue. Right, so there is this, it's finished now. If I were going to be finishing this off to a better result, I spend more time finishing this surface, which is what you can do because we've all got time. You can see it's got one ear up and one ear down, just so people can see what variations you can do. Just play around with it, have a bit of fun. I'm just going to turn my camera around. So thanks everybody. So this camera's driving me mad because it's mirror image. You can see you've got, you could put both ears up, both ears down, and spend more time just to get it smoother. And this is what we're doing next Sunday. Like I said, this does take quite a bit of time, so it might be that we film it live, but I might have some of the components virtually ready, but show you how to do each component and then put it together, because it does take quite a bit of time. This is available as a kit as well. But about Wednesday or Thursday, what I'll do, I'll post a list of different colours and things that you need. Don't be thinking these are special eyes either, because these are just black beads with a little bit of wool. So we've really enjoyed doing this project today. I'll see everybody again next Sunday at 3 o'clock. It's been brilliant. We've had lots and lots of people online today. It's been great fun. Thank you everybody for all your lovely messages. It's been brilliant. Okay. See you all later.